She skipped lunch to feed her baby, but the undercover billionaire watching fell in love. The café was loud with the clatter of silverware and the hum of midday conversation, but none of it registered to the man sitting in the corner booth. He'd built empires in silence, fortunes in shadows, and today, dressed in worn jeans and a faded jacket, he was invisible. Just another face in the crowd. That's how he preferred it. But then she walked in. Not walked, rushed. A young black woman with exhaustion carved into the lines around her eyes, a baby strapped to her chest in a threadbare carrier, and determination in every hurried step. She slid into the booth across from him. Well, not across from him, but in the booth that happened to share a divider with his. Close enough that he could hear everything. Close enough that what happened next would unravel him completely. She ordered a single kid's meal. Not for herself, for the toddler squirming in her arms. And when the waitress asked, "And for you, hon?" she smiled that smile. The kind that holds too much pain to be real. "Just water, please. I'm not hungry." He watched her hands tremble as she mashed the mac and cheese into smaller bites. Watched her eyes linger on the menu she'd already set down. Watched her kiss her baby's forehead like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to this world. And in that moment, something inside billionaire Nathan Cross, something he thought he'd buried with his late wife, cracked wide open. Before we dive into this story, if you believe in the power of love, sacrifice, and second chances, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, have you ever witnessed a stranger's kindness that restored your faith in humanity? Let's get into this emotional journey together. Jasmine Cole had learned to calculate poverty down to the cent. $23.47. That's what remained in her checking account after rent, after the electric bill she'd negotiated down, after the discount diapers that still cost too much. $23 to last until Friday's paycheck from the diner, the night shift job that paid just enough to keep her and 18-month-old Caleb in their studio apartment on the wrong side of Richmond, Virginia. She'd done the math 3 times that morning while Caleb babbled in his playpen, gnawing on a teething ring she'd sanitized so many times the rubber had gone pale. Breakfast, the last of the oatmeal, split between them. Lunch, skippable if she drank enough water. Dinner, ramen with an egg cracked in, the protein stretched to feed them both. The math worked. It always worked. It had to. But Caleb had been fussy all morning, tugging at his ear, and Jasmine knew that tug. Ear infection, probably. Which meant a clinic visit she couldn't afford and antibiotics that would devour what little remained in her account. So when her friend Sierra texted about meeting for lunch at Rosie's cafe, "My treat, girl, you need to get out," Jasmine had hesitated only a moment before saying yes. She could eat at home. Caleb deserved the chicken tenders he loved, even if Sierra was buying. And Jasmine deserved, just for an hour, to sit somewhere warm, somewhere that smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls, somewhere that wasn't the 4 walls of her apartment where the heater rattled and the neighbors fought and her own thoughts grew too loud. Now, standing in Rosie's entryway with Caleb heavy against her chest, his warm weight the only anchor in her spinning world, Jasmine scanned the crowded dining room. No Sierra yet. Her phone buzzed. "Running 20 minutes late, babe. Order without me, I got you. 20 minutes. Jasmine's stomach twisted. She could wait outside, save Sierra the extra time, but Caleb was already reaching for the colorful specials board, his little fist opening and closing. "Mama. Mama, dat. I see it, baby." She kissed his temple, breathed in the baby shampoo scent of him, and made her decision. They'd wait inside. Just water for her. Maybe some crackers from the basket if the waitress was kind. The hostess, a teenager with glittery eyeshadow, gestured to a booth near the back. "This work for you?" "Perfect. Thank you." Jasmine slid in, adjusting Caleb on her lap. He immediately lunged for the laminated menu, and she let him have it, let him smack it against the table with the pure joy only toddlers possessed. Around them, the cafe buzzed. Businessmen in suits, college students with laptops, a couple sharing a milkshake. Normal people doing normal things. People who hadn't chosen between feeding their kid and feeding themselves. She smoothed Caleb's dark curls, her chest tightening. He looked so much like his father, the same deep brown eyes, the same quick smile. Rashad, who'd promised forever and disappeared 3 months into her pregnancy. Who'd blocked her number and moved to Atlanta, leaving her with nothing but a positive test and a broken lease. No. She wouldn't think about him. Not here. Not now. The waitress appeared, middle-aged, kind-faced, with a name tag that read Dottie. "What can I get you, sweetheart?" Jasmine ordered the kids' meal, mac and cheese with apple slices, and when Dottie asked, "And for you?" she summoned that smile. The one she'd perfected in mirrors, the one that said, "I'm fine, really. Just water, please. I'm not hungry." Dottie's eyes flickered, a quick, knowing look, but she nodded. "Water. You got it." As she walked away, Jasmine exhaled. Caleb was already singing to himself, a nonsense song that made her heart ache and soar all at once. She pulled out her phone, pretended to scroll, pretended she wasn't counting the minutes until Sierra arrived, until she wouldn't be alone in a room full of people who had enough. And that's when she felt it. The weight of a gaze. She glanced up, casually, just a sweep of the room, and her eyes snagged on the man in the next booth. White guy, maybe late 30s, early 40s. Rough stubble, faded denim jacket, hair that looked like he'd forgotten to comb it. He wasn't looking at her, exactly. He was staring at his coffee like it held the answers to questions he hadn't asked yet. But she'd felt it. The attention. The something. She looked away, uneasy. Probably nothing. Probably her own paranoia, the hypervigilance that came from being a young single mother in a world that loved to judge. She focused back on Caleb, on the way his fingers now explored the salt shaker, and willed herself to relax. The food came fast. Dottie set the plate down with a wink. "Extra apples for the little man." "Thank you." Jasmine's voice cracked, and she hated it, hated how kindness could undo her faster than cruelty. She mashed the mac and cheese with a fork, blowing on each bite before guiding it to Caleb's eager mouth. He ate like he was starving. Maybe he was, maybe she'd miscalculated breakfast, and she pushed the guilt down, down where it lived with all the other failures she couldn't afford to name. The menu sat beside her. She'd set it down after ordering, but her eyes kept drifting to it. The turkey club. The Caesar salad. The daily special, meatloaf with mashed potatoes and gravy, $10.99. Her stomach growled, a low traitor, and she pressed a hand against it. Water. She had water. She'd be fine. Caleb smacked the table, grinning, a smear of cheese on his chin. "M.O., Mama. More? Okay, baby. One more bite." She fed him another forkful, and in the periphery, she felt it again. That gaze. Heavier this time. She didn't look. Didn't give the stranger the satisfaction. Instead, she kissed Caleb's forehead, whispered, "Mama loves you so much," and pretended the world was just the two of them. Pretended she wasn't hungry. Pretended she wasn't breaking. Nathan Cross had spent the last 5 years perfecting the art of invisibility. It wasn't hard when you were worth $4.2 billion. People expected billionaires to arrive in black cars with tinted windows, to wear tailored suits and Rolexes that cost more than houses. They didn't expect a man in Levi's and Timberlands, nursing black coffee in a hole-in-the-wall café on a Tuesday afternoon, looking like he'd just rolled out of a construction site. That was the point. Nathan had built Cross Capital Ventures from the ground up, angel investments, tech startups, real estate empires, but somewhere along the way, he'd lost the plot. Lost the reason he'd started. His late wife, Evelyn, used to ground him. Used to drag him out of boardrooms and into soup kitchens, remind him that money was a tool, not a trophy. Then cancer took her. 3 years ago, stage 4 pancreatic. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. And Nathan had been holding her hand when she'd whispered, "Don't disappear into the money, Nate. Promise me." He'd promised. He'd lied. Because after she died, the money was all he had left. The deals, the acquisitions, the power plays that kept his calendar full and his mind numb. He worked 18-hour days, slept 4 hours if he was lucky, and avoided mirrors because the man staring back wasn't anyone he recognized. But last month, his therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Patel who didn't care how much he paid her, had given him homework. Go somewhere you'd never go. Dress like someone you're not. Observe. Feel something, Nathan. Anything. So here he was. Rosie's Café, Richmond's East Side, where the coffee was burnt and the linoleum was cracked and nobody knew his name. He'd been coming for 2 weeks now, always the same corner booth, always alone. Watching. Listening. Feeling nothing. Until she walked in. He noticed her the way you notice a car crash. Sudden, unavoidable, impossible to look away from. Young, mid-20s maybe, with dark skin that glowed even under the cafe's fluorescent lights. Hair pulled back in a ponytail, edges laid smooth despite the chaos in her eyes. And the baby, God, the baby, strapped to her chest, impossibly small, impossibly loved. She looked tired. No, not tired. Exhausted. The kind of exhaustion that lived in your bones, that no amount of sleep could fix. Nathan watched her scan the room, watched her shoulders hunch when she checked her phone, watched her force a smile as the hostess led her to the booth directly adjacent to his. So close he could hear the baby babbling, could see her hands tremble as she settled in. He should look away. Should go back to his coffee, his phone, his carefully constructed numbness. He didn't. The waitress came. The woman ordered, a kid's meal, nothing for herself, and Nathan's chest tightened. He knew that move. Knew it from the early days, before Cross Capital, when he'd been a broke college kid splitting dollar menu burgers with his roommate. You ordered for the people you loved and pretended you weren't hungry. But this wasn't a college kid scraping by on ramen. This was a mother. And the baby couldn't have been more than a year old. The food arrived. Nathan watched her mash the mac and cheese, watched her blow on each bite with the kind of care that made his throat close. Watched her eyes linger on the menu, just a second, just a flicker, before she set it down and reached for her water. She wasn't going to eat. The realization hit him like a punch. She'd ordered for her kid, and she was going to sit there, in a cafe full of food, and drink water while her stomach ate itself. Nathan's hands clenched around his mug. He thought about Evelyn. About the way she used to volunteer at the women's shelter downtown, the way she'd come home with stories about single mothers working 3 jobs, about kids who went to bed hungry. We have so much, Nate, she'd say. We have to do something. And he'd write a check. A big one. Tax deductible, conscience clearing, easy. But Evelyn hadn't wanted checks. She'd wanted presence. Wanted him to see the people behind the problems, to feel their struggles, not just fund solutions from a distance. Nathan stared at the woman in the next booth. At the way she kissed her baby's head, at the love radiating off her like heat. At the way she was pretending, so hard, that everything was fine. And for the first time in 3 years, Nathan felt something. It wasn't pity. Pity was clean, detached. This was raw. Anger, maybe. At a world that let mothers skip meals. At himself, for sitting in a cafe wearing a disguise while his billions gathered dust in accounts he'd never empty. At the unfairness of it all. That she was here, struggling, while he had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. He set his mug down. Pulled out his phone. Started to type a message to his assistant. Find out who this woman is, send her. No. That was the old way. The easy way. The billionaire's way. Evelyn wouldn't want to check. She'd want him to do something real. Nathan looked at the woman again. Really looked. Saw the way her eyes kept drifting to the menu, the way her hand pressed against her stomach, the way she smiled at her baby even though she was clearly falling apart. And he made a decision. He didn't know what, exactly. Didn't have a plan. But sitting here, doing nothing, pretending not to see, that wasn't an option anymore. So he watched. And he waited. And he let himself feel the ache of her sacrifice, the beauty of her love, the injustice of her hunger. And he started to remember what it meant to be human. What would you do if you saw someone silently sacrificing for their child? Would you step in, or assume someone else will help? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Sierra never showed up. Jasmine had given her friend 30 minutes. 30 minutes of mashing cold mac and cheese, of wiping Caleb's sticky hands with thin napkins, of sipping water that did nothing to fill the hollow in her stomach. She'd texted twice. No response. Finally, her phone buzzed. "OMG babe, I'm so sorry, boss called me in. Rain check. Love you." Jasmine stared at the message until the words blurred. Rain check. As if lunch was just a casual thing, as if Jasmine had dozens of options, as if she hadn't been counting on Sierra's treat to mean one real meal today. She typed back, "No worries. Next time." Added a smiley face. Hit send. Then she set the phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes, willing herself not to cry. Not here. Not in front of all these people. Not in front of Caleb, who was already sensitive to her moods, who would scrunch up his little face if he saw her tears. "Mama." His voice was soft, uncertain. "I'm okay, baby." She dropped her hands, forced brightness into her tone. "Mama's just tired. You ready to go home?" He nodded, then immediately shook his head, pointing at the little carousel of desserts by the register. "Cookie." Oh, God. The cookies. She'd forgotten about the cookies. They were huge, easily 5 inches across, studded with chocolate chips, wrapped in clear cellophane with a price sticker that read $3.50. Caleb had been eyeing them since they walked in, and Jasmine had distracted him with the mac and cheese, with promises of, "Maybe later, we'll see." But there was no later. There was $23.47, minus the kids' meal Sierra was supposed to cover but now wouldn't, minus the bus fare home, minus the bottle of infant Tylenol she needed to grab for his ear. "Not today, sweet boy." She kissed his nose, tried to make it playful. "We'll get a cookie next time, okay? Mama will make you cookies at home." With what ingredients? The voice in her head was cruel, accurate. With the half cup of flour and no butter? Caleb's face crumpled. Not a tantrum, he was too gentle for that, but disappointment. Pure, unfiltered toddler disappointment that pierced straight through her chest. "Mama, cookie." I know, baby, I'm sorry." She pulled him close, buried her face in his curls, breathed in his sweetness. "I'm so sorry." Dottie appeared with the check, setting it down with a sympathetic smile. Jasmine flipped it over, and her stomach dropped. $8.47. Sierra had said, "My treat." But Sierra wasn't here. And Jasmine's $23 just became 14. She pulled out her wallet, a faded thing held together with a safety pin, and counted out 9 singles, leaving the coins for tip. It wasn't enough, she knew that. Dottie deserved more. But it was all she had. "Thank you," Jasmine whispered, standing, adjusting Caleb on her hip. He felt heavier today, or maybe she was just weaker. The food was really good. Dottie squeezed her shoulder. "You take care of yourself, sweetheart. Both of you." The kindness was too much. Jasmine nodded, unable to speak, and turned toward the door. She made it 3 steps before Caleb started crying. Not fussing, crying. Real tears, the kind that came with hiccups and gasping breaths. "Cookie, Mama. Want cookie." "Shoo, baby, I know." People were staring now. The businessmen, the college kids, the couple with their milkshake. All of them watching the young black mother with the crying baby, probably thinking she couldn't control her kid, probably judging. "Caleb, please." Her voice cracked. "We can't. Mama doesn't have." She stopped. Because she'd almost said it out loud. Mama doesn't have enough money. And saying it out loud would make it real in a way she couldn't survive right now. Caleb wailed louder. Jasmine's eyes burned. Her hands shook. The room tilted, and she was vaguely aware that she'd skipped breakfast too, that the last real meal she'd eaten was yesterday's ramen, that her body was running on fumes and willpower and the sheer necessity of keeping her baby alive. She stumbled, caught herself on the back of a chair. And that's when she heard it. "Excuse me." A man's voice. Deep. Careful. Close. Jasmine turned, and there he was. The guy from the corner booth. The one who'd been watching. Up close, he was taller than she'd expected. Broad shoulders, sharp jawline beneath the stubble, eyes that were an unsettling shade of blue-gray, like a storm rolling in. He held a $20 bill between two fingers, extending it toward her with the kind of hesitance you'd use approaching a wounded animal. "I couldn't help but overhear," he said quietly. "Let me get him a cookie, please." Jasmine froze. The cafe noise faded, the clatter of dishes, the hiss of the espresso machine, Caleb's sobs, all of it distant, muffled, as she stared at the stranger offering her money. Pride surged first. Hot, sharp, defensive. She wasn't a charity case. She didn't need handouts from white men in thrift store jackets who probably felt good about themselves for throwing cash at the poor black girl. But then Caleb whimpered against her chest, and the pride cracked. Because wasn't this exactly what she'd been doing? Taking help where she could find it? Sierra's treat, the discount diapers, the extra apples from Dottie, she'd been accepting kindness all along, just in smaller, more palatable doses. And this man, his eyes weren't pitying. They were sad. Like he understood something she hadn't said out loud. Her voice failed. She swallowed, tried again. "You don't have to. I know." He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of coffee and something woodsy, like cedar. "But I'd like to. If you'll let me." Caleb's crying had softened to sniffles. He was looking at the man now, curious, his little fist still clutching Jasmine's shirt. She should say no. Should thank him, and walk away, and protect the last shreds of her dignity. But Caleb's face was still blotchy from tears. And the cookies were right there. And she was so tired of saying no to her baby. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you." The man's shoulders relaxed, like he'd been bracing for rejection. He walked to the register, spoke to the cashier, Jasmine couldn't hear what he said, and returned with a cookie wrapped in cellophane and a bag that looked suspiciously heavy. He handed her the cookie first. Caleb's eyes went wide, his hands reaching, and Jasmine opened it for him, broke off a piece. He shoved it in his mouth, crumbs tumbling, and smiled through chocolate-smeared lips. "Thank you," he chirped at the man. The man's expression shifted, softened, broke open, like he'd just witnessed something sacred. "You're welcome, buddy." Then he held out the bag. I ordered some sandwiches to go. Turkey clubs. But I'm not that hungry, and it seems like a waste." He trailed off, the lie transparent and kind. Jasmine took the bag on autopilot. It was warm. Heavy. Smelled like roasted turkey and fresh bread. Her throat closed. "I can't. This is too much. It's just food." His voice was rough now, urgent. "Please. Let me do this one thing." She looked up at him, really looked, and saw it. The grief buried in the lines around his eyes, the guilt in the set of his jaw, the desperate need to fix something, anything, even if it was just a stranger's lunch. He wasn't doing this for her. He was doing it for himself. And somehow, that made it easier to accept. "Thank you," she said again, and this time she meant it. Meant it so deeply it hurt. He nodded, stepped back, hands in his pockets. "Take care of yourself. Both of you." Then he walked away, not out the door, but back to his booth, like this was just a normal Tuesday, like he hadn't just cracked open her chest and reminded her that kindness still existed. Jasmine stood there, clutching the bag, Caleb happily destroying his cookie against her shoulder. Around them, the cafe resumed its rhythm. People went back to their meals, their conversations, their lives. But she couldn't move. Because something had shifted. Some invisible thread had been tied between her and the stranger in the corner booth, and she didn't know what to do with it. Finally, Caleb tugged her hair. "Mama. Home." "Yeah, baby." She kissed his temple, blinked back tears. "Let's go home." She walked to the door, the bag of sandwiches clutched like a lifeline. But at the threshold, she stopped. Turned. The man was watching her. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and for a moment, just a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then Jasmine smiled. Small, wobbly, real. And he smiled back. Nathan watched her leave, and the emptiness that had lived in his chest for 3 years roared back with a vengeance. She'd smiled at him. That broken, beautiful woman with her baby and her pride and her hunger. She'd smiled at him, like he'd done something more than hand her $20 and a bag of sandwiches. Like he'd given her hope. He dropped his head into his hands, elbows on the table, and tried to breathe through the tightness in his lungs. Evelyn had been right. She was always right. Money wasn't the answer. Power wasn't the answer. The answer was this: these small, messy, terrifying moments of connection. Seeing someone. Being seen. "You okay, hon?" Nathan looked up. Dottie stood beside his booth, coffee pot in hand, concern etched into her weathered face. "Yeah." His voice came out hoarse. "Yeah, I'm okay." She refilled his mug without asking. "That was a good thing you did. For that girl. It wasn't enough. It was something." Dottie set the pot down, crossed her arms. "You'd be surprised how much something matters when you've got nothing." Nathan stared at his coffee. "Do you know her? The woman with the baby. Jasmine? She comes in sometimes. Works nights at the diner down on Broad Street." Dottie's expression softened. "Sweet girl. Been through hell, from what I hear. Baby daddy took off, family's not around. But she's a fighter. You can see it in her eyes. Jasmine." Her name was Jasmine. Nathan pulled out his phone, opened a note, typed it before he could forget. Then he looked up at Dottie. "The diner on Broad, what's it called?" Dottie's eyebrows rose. "Mel's Place." "Why?" "Just curious." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Well, if you're that curious, they're always hiring. Could use a dishwasher or two." Nathan almost laughed. Dishwasher. When was the last time he'd done manual labor? College, probably. Before the money, before the empire, before he'd forgotten what it felt like to earn minimum wage and go home with aching hands. "Thanks," he said. "I'll keep that in mind." Dottie patted his shoulder and walked away, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts and the ghost of Jasmine's smile. He should go. Had a meeting at 4, a conference call at 6, a dozen emails waiting for responses. His real life, the one with the penthouse and the executive assistant and the board members who called him sir, was ticking forward without him. But he didn't move. Instead, he pulled up his assistant's contact, typed a message. "Clear my schedule for the rest of the week. Personal matter. I'll check in Monday." Sent it before he could second guess. Then he sat back, drained his coffee, and made another decision. He was going to find Jasmine again. Not to throw money at her, that was the easy way out, the coward's solution. No, he was going to find her, talk to her, understand her story. And maybe, just maybe, figure out how to help in a way that actually mattered. Because Evelyn had asked him to feel something. And for the first time since she died, he did. Jasmine made the sandwiches last 3 days. She rationed them like a soldier in wartime, half for dinner Tuesday night, a quarter for Wednesday's lunch, the rest carefully wrapped and refrigerated for Thursday. Each bite felt like a gift and a reminder. Some stranger had seen her struggling and cared enough to help. She didn't know his name. Didn't know anything about him except that he had sad eyes and rough hands and the kind of quiet desperation that matched her own. But she thought about him constantly. Thursday night, Jasmine tied her apron around her waist and surveyed the empty diner. Mel's Place was a relic from the 1970s. Cracked red vinyl booths, a jukebox that only played half its songs, fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying bees. It smelled like grease and coffee and broken dreams, and Jasmine had worked here for 18 months, pulling double shifts when she could, smiling through harassment from drunk customers, saving every tip in a mason jar hidden under her bathroom sink. The jar currently held $347. Her emergency fund. Her escape hatch. Her ticket to something better, though she didn't know what better looked like anymore. Table 4 needs ketchup. Mel barked from the kitchen. He was 60-something, rail-thin, with a cigarette perpetually dangling from his lips despite the no-smoking signs he'd put up himself. And smile, Jasmine. Nobody tips a sad waitress. She grabbed the ketchup, forced her mouth into the shape of happiness, and delivered it to the truckers at table 4. They barely acknowledged her. She was invisible here, just another pair of hands bringing food, refilling coffee, clearing plates. The bell above the door chimed. Jasmine turned automatically, greeting ready on her lips, and froze. It was him. The man from the café. Standing in the doorway of Mel's place like he'd materialized from her thoughts. Wearing the same faded jacket, the same uncertain expression. His eyes found hers immediately, and something passed between them. Recognition, surprise, something deeper she didn't have words for. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Sit anywhere you like," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. He chose the corner booth. Of course he did. The same position as the café, watching, separate, safe. Jasmine took a breath, grabbed a menu, and crossed the dingy linoleum to his table. Up close, under the diner's harsh lights, she noticed details she'd missed before. The calluses on his hands, the silver threading through his dark hair, the way he held himself like someone carrying a weight no one else could see. "Hi." She set the menu down, pulled out her order pad. "Can I start you with coffee? Please." His voice was rough, like he'd forgotten how to use it. "And, it's good to see you again." Heat crept up her neck. "You too." She twisted the pen between her fingers. "I never got to properly thank you. For the other day. The sandwiches, the cookie. That was really kind." "You don't have to thank me." "I do though." She met his eyes, let him see her sincerity. "It meant a lot. More than you know." He looked away first, clearing his throat. "How's your son? Caleb, right? You remembered his name. Hard to forget a kid that cute." Jasmine laughed, a real one, surprised out of her. "He's good. Ate that entire cookie in about 5 minutes and crashed hard. Slept through the night for the first time in weeks." "Good." The man smiled, and it transformed his face, chased away some of the sadness. "That's good." An awkward silence stretched between them. Jasmine shifted her weight, aware she should take his order, move on to other tables. But something kept her rooted. "I'm Nathan, by the way," he said suddenly. "Figured you should know, since I ambushed you with sandwiches." "Jasmine." She returned his smile. "But you probably heard that already. The waitress at the café mentioned it. Hope that's not creepy." "Little bit." She grinned. "But in a harmless way." "I'll take harmless." Nathan picked up the menu, scanned it without really reading. "What's good here?" "Honestly? Not much. The meatloaf's edible. Pancakes are solid if you're into breakfast for dinner. Avoid anything with the word surprise in it." He laughed, a rusty sound, like a door opening after years locked shut. "Meatloaf it is. And coffee. Lots of coffee. Coming right up." Jasmine walked back to the kitchen on autopilot, her mind spinning. Nathan. His name was Nathan. And he'd come here, to her work, to this run-down diner on the wrong side of town, because, why? Coincidence? Or had he been looking for her? The thought should have scared her. Should have triggered all her alarm bells about strange men and ulterior motives. Instead, it made her feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced in years. Nathan hadn't planned this. Well, that was a lie. He'd absolutely planned this. Had asked Dottie for the diner's name, had driven past 3 times before working up the courage to go inside, had rehearsed a dozen opening lines that all sounded stupid in his head. But sitting here now, watching Jasmine navigate the diner with practiced efficiency, he realized he hadn't planned for this. The way his chest tightened when she smiled, the way her presence made the grimy diner feel less depressing, the way she looked at him like he was just a person, not a problem to solve or a wallet to extract. She brought his coffee, and their fingers brushed when she set down the mug. The contact lasted half a second, nothing, really, but Nathan felt it in his bones. "Meatloaf's coming up," she said. "You need anything else? Your phone number? Your story? Your trust? I'm good. Thanks." She lingered, worrying her bottom lip. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Why'd you come here? To Mel's, I mean. This isn't exactly a destination restaurant." Nathan considered lying. Considered saying he was in the neighborhood, just hungry, pure chance. But Evelyn's voice echoed in his head. "Be honest, Nate. People deserve honesty." "I wanted to see you again," he admitted. "Make sure you were okay." Jasmine's eyes widened. "Oh. Too much. That's too much. I'm sorry, No." She shook her head quickly. "No, it's actually really sweet. Just unexpected." "Story of my week," Nathan muttered. She laughed, and God, he wanted to bottle that sound. "Well, as you can see, I'm okay. Broke, exhausted, working a dead-end job, but okay." The words were light, joking, but Nathan heard the truth beneath them. Heard the resignation, the weariness, the fight to keep going despite everything. "You're more than okay," he said quietly. "You're raising a kid alone, holding down a job, surviving. That's not nothing." Jasmine's expression shifted, softened, cracked open. For a moment, she looked like she might cry. Then she blinked hard, straightened her shoulders. I have other tables." "Right. Of course." She walked away, but Nathan caught the way she glanced back at him. Twice. He nursed his coffee, picked at the meatloaf when it arrived. She was right. It was barely edible, and watched her work. Watched the way she smiled at customers even when they didn't tip. Watched her dodge a drunk guy's wandering hand with practiced ease. Watched her disappear into the back and emerge with tired eyes that she hid behind false brightness. She was magnificent. And she was drowning. Nathan's phone buzzed. His assistant, "Board meeting moved to tomorrow. Need you there." He typed back, "Can't handle it." Another buzz. "Nathan, they're threatening to vote on the merger without you." He stared at the message. The merger, 6 months of negotiations, $800 million on the line, his biggest deal of the year. Missing it could cost him millions, could damage relationships he'd spent years building. He looked up at Jasmine, at the way she refilled a customer's water with hands that trembled slightly from exhaustion. And he typed, "Let them vote. I trust your judgment." Sent it. Put the phone on silent. Buried it in his pocket. Because for the first time in 3 years, something mattered more than money. Around 10 p.m., the diner emptied. Just Nathan and an old man nursing decaf in the back. Jasmine approached with the coffee pot, her movements slower now, pain etched into her features. "Refill. Please." Nathan watched her pour, noticed the way she winced. "You okay?" "Fine. Just my feet. 8-hour shifts in bad shoes." "Sit," he said impulsively, gesturing to the opposite seat. "Just for a minute. I won't tell your boss." "I shouldn't. When's the last time you sat down?" Jasmine hesitated, then glanced at Mel, who was smoking in the kitchen doorway. The old man gave a dismissive wave. She slid into the booth with a grateful sigh, slipping off one sneaker to massage her foot. "Better?" Nathan asked. You have no idea." She leaned back, closing her eyes briefly. "God, I'm tired. How often do you work nights?" 5, sometimes 6 days a week. Depends on who calls out. Day shifts Caleb time, daycare, doctor appointments, you know. Night shift pays better, so." She shrugged. "You do what you gotta do. What about sleep?" "What about it?" She smiled wryly. "I sleep when Caleb sleeps. Sometimes that's 4 hours. Sometimes it's 2. I'll sleep when he's 18, I figure. Nathan's jaw tightened. That's not sustainable. You're right. It's not. Jasmine opened her eyes, fixed him with a look that was equal parts exhausted and defiant. But it's what I've got. So I sustain anyway. The old man in the back stood, dropped a few bills on his table, and shuffled out. The door chimed. Now it was just the two of them and Mel, who'd disappeared into his office. Nathan leaned forward. Can I ask you something? Shoot. Where's Caleb now? While you're working. My neighbor watches him. Mrs. Chen, she's 70-something, sweet as pie. Only charges me $20 a night because she knows I can't afford more. Jasmine's voice caught. I hate leaving him. Hate that he goes to sleep without me there. But it's temporary, you know? Once I save enough, I can get a better job, better hours, better. She stopped, laughed bitterly. Listen to me. Better. Like that's a real place. It is, Nathan said fiercely. It is a real place, and you'll get there. Yeah. She tilted her head, studying him. You seem pretty sure about that. I am. Why? Because I'm going to help you. Because I have more money than God and you deserve better and I can fix this. But he couldn't say that. Not yet. She'd bolt if he revealed too much too fast. Because you're a fighter, he said instead. Anyone who does what you do, who sacrifices like you do for their kid, doesn't quit. You'll find a way. Jasmine's eyes shimmered. You don't even know me. I know enough. They sat in silence, the air between them charged with something Nathan couldn't name. Want, maybe. Or recognition. Two broken people circling each other, trying to figure out if the other was safe to trust. Finally, Jasmine spoke. Why are you really here, Nathan? I told you. No. She leaned forward, pinning him with those dark, knowing eyes. I mean, why? You don't strike me as the kind of guy who eats at places like this. Your clothes are thrift store, but they're clean. Too clean. Your hands have calluses, but they're not the right kind, not from real labor. And you look at me like... She trailed off, shook her head. Like you're trying to solve a puzzle. So what is it? Some kind of social experiment? Research for a book? Nathan's heart raced. She was smart. Too smart. And he was a terrible liar. I'm trying to figure out how to be a better person, he said slowly, honestly. And watching you, seeing how you love your son, how you keep going despite everything, it reminds me what matters. That's a lot of pressure to put on a stranger. I know. I'm sorry. Jasmine studied him for a long moment. Then, softly, what happened to you? To make you forget what matters. Nathan closed his eyes. Saw Evelyn in her hospital bed, skin like paper, eyes still bright with love. Saw himself signing contracts in the waiting room between chemo sessions. Saw the grave he visited once a year because more often hurt too much. I lost someone, he said. Someone who kept me human. And without her, I drifted. When he opened his eyes, Jasmine's expression had transformed. No more wariness. Just compassion, raw and real. I'm sorry, she whispered. Me too. The moment stretched, fragile and honest. Then Mel's voice shattered it. Jasmine! Dishes! She jolted, slipping her shoe back on. Duty calls. But before she stood, she reached across the table, squeezed Nathan's hand briefly. Thank you. For being honest. Then she was gone, disappearing into the kitchen, leaving Nathan with the ghost of her touch and a certainty that terrified him. He was falling for her. Here's a question for you. Have you ever met someone who changed your perspective on life in just a few conversations? Tell me your story in the comments. Let's celebrate those unexpected connections. Nathan came back every night that week. Monday through Friday, he showed up at Mel's place around 8 p.m., ordered the meatloaf or pancakes, and stayed until closing. He'd bring a book sometimes. A prop, really. Because he spent most of his time watching Jasmine navigate her shift with grace that shouldn't have been possible given her circumstances. They talked in stolen moments. 5 minutes here while she refilled his coffee. 10 minutes there during the late-night lull. He learned about her childhood in Durham, her dreams of becoming a nurse before Caleb came along, her favorite song, Lauryn Hill's, To Zion. Fitting, she said with a sad smile. She learned he was between jobs, liked old movies, and had been married once to someone who sounded, in Jasmine's words, like an angel. She was. Nathan agreed quietly. I didn't deserve her. I doubt that's true. You didn't know me before. Jasmine had looked at him with those penetrating eyes. I know you now. That counts for something. By Friday, Nathan's assistant had called 17 times. His board was furious. The merger was falling apart. Cross Capital Ventures was hemorrhaging opportunities while he ate bad meatloaf and fell deeper for a waitress who thought he was unemployed. He should tell her. Should explain who he really was, what he could offer, how he could change her life with a single phone call. But every time he tried, the words stuck in his throat. Because once she knew about the money, everything would change. She'd see him differently, as a benefactor, a savior, a problem solver. Not as Nathan, the sad guy in the corner booth who understood what it meant to keep going when everything hurt. Friday night, Mel closed up early. Family emergency, he'd grunted, leaving Jasmine to lock up alone. Nathan helped her wipe down tables, stack chairs, mop the floors. It felt good, using his hands for something real. Something that mattered. You don't have to do this, Jasmine said, watching him wrestle with the ancient mop bucket. I want to. He grunted as the wringer stuck. Besides, you've been on your feet for 8 hours. Least I can do. She smiled, that beautiful, weary smile he'd come to crave. You're strange, you know that? I've been told. They finished in comfortable silence, and when Jasmine locked the front door, Nathan walked her to her car, a 1998 Honda Civic with more rust than paint and a passenger door held shut with duct tape. Don't judge Bertha, Jasmine said, patting the hood. She gets me where I need to go. Mostly. Bertha's perfect. Jasmine dug for her keys, and Nathan noticed her hands shaking. Not from cold, the October night was mild, but from exhaustion so bone-deep it radiated off her in waves. Hey. He touched her elbow gently. When's the last time you had a real day off? Define real. No work. No responsibilities. Just rest. She laughed, but it came out broken. I can't remember. Before Caleb, maybe? When I could actually sleep past 6 a.m. without someone needing me. That's not healthy. Nathan. She turned to face him, and in the parking lot's yellow streetlight, he saw how young she really was. 25, maybe 26. Still a kid herself, raising a kid, aged by poverty and single motherhood into someone who'd forgotten what rest felt like. I appreciate the concern, I do. But you don't get it. I don't have the luxury of health. I have bills and a baby and $347 in a mason jar that represents 6 months of tips and overtime. That's my reality. So yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm probably going to collapse eventually. But not today. Today, I keep going. Nathan's chest ached. Let me help. You already have. The sandwiches, the company, listening to me complain. No. I mean really help. He stepped closer, urgent now. Money. Childcare. A better job. Whatever you need. Jasmine went very still. Why would you do that? Because I can. Because you deserve it. Because. Because what? Her voice sharpened. Because you feel sorry for me? Because I'm some charity project that makes you feel better about yourself. That's not. Then what? She backed up against Bertha, arms crossed defensively. You show up here every night, you watch me like I'm some kind of documentary, you offer help like you're playing God. Who are you, Nathan? Really? The moment of truth. Nathan could feel it crystallizing between them, Sharp and unavoidable. He could lie. Keep playing the down-on-his-luck guy, maintain the comfortable fiction they'd built. Or he could honor her with honesty. Risk everything. Trust that what they'd built over 5 nights of stolen conversation was strong enough to survive the truth. "My full name is Nathan Cross," he said quietly. "I own Cross Capital Ventures. I'm worth a lot. More than I'll ever need. And I came to that cafe 2 weeks ago because my therapist told me to feel something. Again, and then you walked in and..." His voice cracked. "And I saw you sacrifice your lunch for your son, and I felt everything all at once. Anger and grief and this desperate need to do something real for once instead of just writing checks and hiding in boardrooms. So yes, I've been watching you. And yes, I want to help. But not because you're a project. Because you remind me what it means to be brave." Jasmine stared at him. The parking lot was silent except for distant traffic and the buzz of the streetlight. "You're a billionaire," she said flatly. "Yes. And you've been pretending to be broke." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I needed you to see me. Not my money. Not what I could do for you. Just me." She laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. "That's rich. Literally." She fumbled for her car door. "I have to go. Jasmine, please." "No." She whirled on him, and he saw tears tracking down her cheeks. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to play dress up in thrift store clothes and slum it with the poor people and then offer to save me like some kind of, she choked on the words. "I trusted you. I told you things I haven't told anyone. And this whole time, you were lying. I never lied about what matters. Everything you didn't say was a lie." Her voice broke. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Sitting here, complaining about my life to someone who could buy this entire city? God, you must have thought I was so pathetic." "I thought you were incredible," Nathan said desperately. "I think you're incredible. The money doesn't change that. The money changes everything." Jasmine yanked open Bertha's door. It groaned in protest. "Stay away from me, Nathan. Go back to your billion-dollar life and forget you ever saw the poor black girl who skipped lunch." "Jasmine." She slammed the door, started the engine. It coughed, sputtered, died. She tried again. Same result. No. No, no, no. She turned the key frantically. "Come on, Bertha. Not now." Nathan approached carefully. "Pop the hood. I can take a look." "I don't need your help. Your car needs help. That's different." She glared at him through the windshield, then hit the hood release with more force than necessary. Nathan lifted it, peered at the ancient engine by phone flashlight. He didn't know much about cars, but he knew a dead battery when he saw one. "It's the battery," he called. "Probably needs a jump." Jasmine got out, stood beside him, staring at Bertha's mechanical guts like they'd personally betrayed her. "Of course it is. I can call a tow." "With what money, Nathan?" She laughed bitterly. "I have $14 in checking. 14. That's gas money to get Caleb to daycare next week. I can't afford a tow. Can't afford a new battery. Can't afford..." Her voice splintered. "I can't afford any of this." She pressed her hands to her face, and Nathan watched her break, really break, right there in the parking lot. Watched 3 years of holding it together come apart all at once. He moved without thinking, pulling her into his arms. She fought him for half a second, then collapsed against his chest, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. "I'm so tired," she gasped between sobs. "I'm so tired of being strong. So tired of failing. So tired of. I know." Nathan held her tighter, his own eyes burning. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They stood there under the streetlight, broken people holding each other up, while Bertha ticked and cooled beside them. Eventually, Jasmine's tears slowed. She pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeves, refusing to meet Nathan's eyes. I need to get home, she whispered. Mrs. Chen charges extra after midnight. Let me drive you. Nathan. Just a ride. No strings. No agendas. Just, let me get you home safely. She looked at him then. Really looked, like she was trying to see past the money and the lies to whatever truth remained. Finally, she nodded. Nathan's car was parked 2 blocks over. A Tesla Model S, sleek and black and worth more than Jasmine made in 5 years. She stopped when she saw it. Of course, she muttered. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. She got in, fastened her seatbelt. Just drive. The ride to her apartment was silent. Nathan navigated based on her terse directions, each turn taking them deeper into Richmond's east side. The buildings grew more run down, the streetlights more sparse. Jasmine's apartment complex was a 3-story brick structure with bars on the ground floor windows and graffiti tagging the dumpsters. This is me. She unbuckled. Thanks for the ride. Jasmine, wait. Nathan killed the engine. Can I say something? Just one thing, and then I'll leave you alone if that's what you want. She stared straight ahead. Fine. You're right. I should have been honest from the start. I was selfish and scared, and I'm sorry. He took a breath. But meeting you, watching you love your son, seeing your strength, it woke something up in me that's been dead for 3 years. You made me want to be better. And yeah, I want to help you. Not because I pity you, but because you deserve better than $14 and a dying car and a neighbor who charges for love. You deserve stability and rest and the chance to become that nurse you dreamed about. And I have the resources to make that happen. So I'm asking, begging, let me help. Not as some billionaire savior. As someone who sees you and wants to see you thrive. Jasmine finally looked at him. Her face was swollen from crying, mascara smudged, beautiful in a way that made his heart hurt. You don't get it, she said softly. If I let you help, I lose myself. I become the charity case, the project, the girl who needed saving. And I've worked so hard, so damn hard, to be more than that. You'll always be more than that. Money can't change who you are. It changes how people see me. Not me. You say that now. She reached for the door handle. But eventually, you'll look at me and see the investment. The good deed. And I'll look at you and wonder if you'd have noticed me at all if I wasn't broken enough to fix. Jasmine. She got out, leaned down to look at him through the open door. Thank you for the rides. Both of them. But I need to do this my way. Alone. You don't have to be alone. Yes, she said, and her smile was sad and final. I do. She closed the door, walked toward her building without looking back. Nathan watched her disappear into the darkness, every instinct screaming at him to follow, to fix, to solve. But he'd already pushed too hard. Already revealed too much. So he sat in his Tesla in the parking lot of her rundown complex, watching her window, 3rd floor, middle unit, until the light clicked on. Until he saw her silhouette pass by the curtain, holding Caleb, swaying gently. And Nathan Cross, worth $4.2 billion, who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd never met a problem he couldn't solve with money or power or sheer will. Felt completely, utterly helpless. Nathan didn't go back to Mel's place. He wanted to, God, he wanted to, but he'd made a promise. I'll leave you alone if that's what you want. And Jasmine had made her wishes clear. So instead, he threw himself back into work. Salvaged the merger, sat through 18 hours of negotiations, signed contracts that would make him another $100 million. His board was relieved. His assistant was ecstatic. Nathan felt nothing. At night, alone in his penthouse that overlooked the James River, he'd stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows and wonder if Jasmine had gotten Bertha fixed. If Caleb's ear infection had cleared up. If she was eating enough, sleeping enough, surviving. He'd pulled up her information, easy enough when you had resources. Jasmine Marie Cole. 26 years old. No family listed. Caleb's father, Rashad Jenkins, No contact for 2 years. Bank account, $347.82. Credit score, 542. Behind on her electric bill. Medical debt from Caleb's birth, $12,000 in collections. Nathan could fix all of it with a phone call. One transfer, and her debts would vanish. Her car would be replaced. Her future would be secure. But she'd told him no. And for once in his life, Nathan was trying to respect someone's boundaries instead of bulldozing through them with money and good intentions. Dr. Patel had a field day with that in their Tuesday session. So you found someone who makes you feel alive again, she summarized, pen tapping her notepad. Someone who doesn't want your money. And this terrifies you because I don't know how to help without money, Nathan admitted. That's all I've been for 3 years. A checkbook with a heartbeat. Maybe she doesn't need your help. Maybe she needs your presence. She told me to stay away. Did she? Or did she tell you to stop treating her like a charity case? Nathan went quiet, replaying their last conversation. If I let you help, I lose myself. She's afraid, Dr. Patel continued gently. Afraid that accepting help means admitting defeat. Afraid that you'll see her as broken instead of strong. But Nathan, everyone needs help sometimes. The question is, can you offer it in a way that honors her dignity? He thought about that all week. Thought about it while reviewing quarterly reports, while sitting in board meetings, while signing papers that moved millions of dollars between accounts. How do you help someone who won't accept help? The answer came on Thursday, in the form of a phone call from Dottie at Rosie's café. Mr. Cross. Her voice was tight with worry. I wasn't sure I should call, but Jasmine was here earlier. With the baby. She looked bad, Nathan. Real bad. Sick, maybe, or just exhausted. She couldn't afford to order anything, just asked for water, and when she stood up to leave she collapsed. Right there, in the café. Nathan's blood turned to ice. Is she okay? Paramedics came. She refused to go to the hospital. No insurance, she said, but they checked her vitals. Blood pressure's through the roof, probably from stress. They said she needs rest, real food, less work. Dottie's voice cracked. But how's she supposed to rest when she's got a baby and bills and no one to help her? Where is she now? Her apartment, I think. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor, came to get Caleb. But Nathan, if someone doesn't do something. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Nathan was already grabbing his keys. Jasmine's apartment building looked worse in daylight. Peeling paint, cracked concrete, the smell of garbage and desperation. Nathan climbed to the 3rd floor, found her unit, 3B, and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Jasmine. It's Nathan. Dottie called me. I just want to make sure you're okay. Silence. Then, faintly. Go away. I will. I promise. Just let me see you first. A long pause. The sound of a chain sliding, a deadbolt turning. The door opened 6 inches, and Nathan's heart shattered. Jasmine looked like death. Gray undertones to her brown skin, eyes sunken and red-rimmed, hair tied back in a messy bun. She wore sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt with stains that might have been spit up or coffee or both. I'm fine, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. You collapsed. I got dizzy. It happens. When's the last time you ate? I don't. Yesterday? Maybe the day before. She swayed slightly, caught herself on the doorframe. Nathan, I can't do this right now. I'm tired. I know. That's why I'm here. He held up the bags he'd brought, groceries from Whole Foods, pre-made meals, fresh fruit, a case of electrolyte drinks. I'm not here to save you or fix you or make you accept charity. I'm here because Dottie called and said you might need food, and bringing food to hungry people is just basic human decency. No strings. No conditions. Just food. And if you don't want it, I'll leave it with Mrs. Chen for Caleb. Jasmine stared at the bags. At him. Her lower lip trembled. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Because you matter, Nathan said simply. And because when my wife was dying, people brought us food. Casseroles and soups and stuff we barely touched, but it mattered. Not the food, the gesture. Someone saying, I see your pain, and I want to ease it, even just a little. Let me do that for you. Please. A tear slipped down her cheek. Then, another. Then she stepped back, opening the door wider. Okay. Nathan entered the small studio, barely 400 square feet, he guessed. A twin bed in one corner, Caleb's crib wedged beside it. A kitchenette with 2 burners and a mini fridge. A single window with a view of the parking lot. But it was clean, decorated with photos of Caleb and string lights that gave the space a warm glow. Evidence of love in every corner. It's not much, Jasmine said, following his gaze. It's perfect. He unpacked the groceries while she sat on the bed, watching. Put away the meals, stocked the fruit, filled her fridge with more food than it had probably held in months. When he finished, he turned to find her crying silently, hands pressed to her mouth. Hey. He sat beside her, careful, respectful of her space. Talk to me. I'm just. She hiccuped. Nobody's ever. I've been doing this alone for so long, and I thought I had to keep doing it alone because asking for help meant I was weak. But Nathan, I'm so tired of being strong. I'm so tired of pretending I can handle everything when I'm barely handling anything. Then stop pretending. He took her hand, carefully, giving her the chance to pull away. She didn't. Let people help. Let me help. Not with money, not yet, not until you're ready. But with this. Food. Presents. Someone to lean on when the weight gets too heavy. Jasmine looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. I was wrong about you, she said softly. That night in the parking lot. I said you'd see me as an investment. But that's not what this is it? No. Then what is it? Nathan took a breath. This was the moment. The truth he'd been circling for 2 weeks. I'm falling in love with you, he said. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know you have every reason not to trust me. But sitting in that cafe, watching you choose your son over yourself, I saw something I thought I'd lost, the capacity to feel deeply. To care about someone more than myself. And these last 2 weeks, even when we weren't talking, you were all I could think about. Your laugh. Your strength. The way you love Caleb. The way you fight for your life even when it feels impossible. His voice cracked. So yeah, I want to help you. But not because you're broken. Because you're extraordinary, and extraordinary people deserve extraordinary lives. Jasmine was crying openly now. Nathan. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. She cupped his face with her free hand, thumb wiping away a tear he hadn't realized he'd shed. I'm falling too, she whispered. And it scares me to death. Me too. What if we mess this up? Then we mess it up together. She laughed. Watery, beautiful. That's not reassuring. It's honest. Yeah. She leaned her forehead against his. Yeah, it is. They sat like that, breathing each other's air, holding each other's brokenness, until Jasmine's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen, Caleb asking for Mama. I should go get him, Jasmine said reluctantly. I'll come with you. If you want. I want. She stood, pulled him up with her. At the door, she paused. Nathan? Thank you. For the food. For seeing me. For not giving up. Never, he promised. She kissed his cheek, soft, brief, electric, and smiled. Come on. Let's go get my baby. The nursing school acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday. Jasmine called Nathan from the parking lot of Richmond Community College, voice high and breathless with joy. I got in. Nathan, I got in. I never doubted you for a second, he said, grinning so wide his face hurt. We're celebrating. Dinner at that Italian place you love. My treat. Everything's your treat. And I'm not hearing complaints. She laughed. God, he loved that sound. Pick me up at 7? I'll be there at 6:30. He was there at 6:15, actually, because Nathan Cross had learned many things in the past 6 months. 1. Love wasn't about grand gestures or throwing money at problems. It was about showing up. Consistently. Honestly. 2. Jasmine was terrible at accepting help, but excellent at accepting partnership. So instead of paying off her debts directly, Nathan had hired her to consult on a new charitable initiative. Fair wages, flexible hours, health insurance included. The paycheck happened to cover her bills and then some. Semantics. 3. Caleb gave the best hugs in the universe and called Nathan Nay, which made Nathan's heart explode every single time. 4. Healing wasn't linear. Some days, Jasmine still panicked about money, still woke up in fight-or-flight mode. Some days, Nathan still felt the ghost of Evelyn, still wondered if he deserved this second chance at love. But they were learning to hold space for each other's wounds while building something new. 5. Mrs. Chen was a treasure who now babysat for free because family doesn't charge family, and also because Nathan had anonymously paid off her mortgage and she suspected but never confirmed his involvement. 6. Bertha the Honda Civic now sat in Nathan's garage, fully restored, because Jasmine refused to get rid of her. She got me through the hard times, she'd said. She stays. Nathan had fallen even deeper in love with her in that moment. Now, standing outside her new apartment, 2 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, rent paid through her consulting income, Nathan knocked with one hand and held flowers with the other. Jasmine opened the door, and his breath caught. She glowed. Literally glowed, happiness radiating from every pore. She wore a yellow dress that made her skin look golden, her hair natural and curly, her smile brighter than any sun. You're early, she accused, but she was already kissing him, flowers crushed between them. Couldn't wait, he murmured against her lips. Caleb toddled over, arms up. Nay, up. Nathan scooped him up, tossed him gently, caught him. Caleb's giggles filled the apartment, and Jasmine watched them with tears in her eyes. What? Nathan asked. Nothing. Just. She touched his face. Just happy. I didn't think I was allowed to be this happy. You're allowed, Nathan said fiercely. You're allowed everything good, Jasmine. Every single thing. At dinner, surrounded by pasta and candlelight and the chaotic joy of a toddler learning to use a fork, Nathan pulled out a small box. Jasmine froze. Nathan. It's not what you think. He opened it, revealing a key. It's to my place. I want you to have access. For emergencies, for late-night cravings, for whenever you want to not be alone. No pressure. No expectations. Just, you're always welcome in my space. In my life. She took the key with shaking hands. This feels like more than a key. It is. He covered her hand with his. It's me saying I'm all in. That I see a future with you and Caleb. That I want to build something real, at whatever pace you're comfortable with. That I love you. Both of you. Caleb, oblivious to the weight of the moment, smashed a breadstick into his face. "Mo bread, Mama." Jasmine laughed through tears. "Okay, baby. More bread." She looked at Nathan, eyes shining. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Good terrified or bad terrified. The best kind." They kissed across the table, pasta cooling, Caleb narrating their lives in toddler babble, and Nathan thought about the man he'd been 6 months ago. Hollow. Numb. Hiding in corner booths, afraid to feel. And he thought about Evelyn, who'd made him promise not to disappear into the money. Who'd want him to love again, to live fully, to honor her memory by being present in his own life. I kept my promise, he thought. I found my way back. Jasmine squeezed his hand, and Nathan squeezed back, holding on to this moment, this love, this second chance he'd never stop being grateful for. Because sometimes, the most extraordinary thing isn't the grand rescue or the fairy tale ending. Sometimes, it's just two broken people choosing each other, day after day, building something beautiful from the wreckage. Sometimes, it's love. So here's my final question for you. Do you believe in second chances? In love that finds you when you're not even looking for it? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another emotional journey. Until next time, remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters might still be unwritten.